Lieutenant Kayla Miller with Michiana Crime Stoppers joining us again. It is Monday after all. Thank you so much for being here.
Absolutely. Thanks for having us again. And we look forward to doing these segments. I know it's always heartbreaking and gut wrenching when we talk about these cases, but the fact that we're able to do this and bring these cases back to the forefront of everyone's minds and hopefully generate some new leads and information, I think is really important. So thank you so much for having us again.
Oh my gosh, of course. Yeah, we do it because we have hope, right? We have hope that people are going to find it in their heart to say, okay, I've been sitting with this enough. It's time for me to come out with some information. And as time goes on, maybe people remember things or find things, and anything we can do to help. In this case in particular, really is devastating. I mean, they all are devastating, but this one is really devastating. I remember WNDU's coverage of it. I was working at the police department when this happened. The community almost immediately jumped on board this case and was feeling it, really.
They did. And as you've said before, as time goes on and other cases happen, it's sometimes the older cases just kind of fall to the wayside as far as people's talking and thinking about it. As far as the investigation goes, we don't stop.
Right.
But when it comes time to think about these cases and remember people, sometimes we get hung up in the newest case that's popped up. And as we look at this case approaching the 1 year mark on Wednesday, I thought it was really good timing to try to bring Olivia Carrillo back to the front of everyone's minds.
Yeah, it's so important. A mom, a daughter, a friend, really important. So let's break it down. What do we know? When did this happen?
So it happened April 27th, 2021. It was around 11 p.m. when South Bend Police Department was called to the 600 block of Illinois. So that would be South Illinois. The initial call was for a shot spotter activation. As officers were responding, dispatch gave them an update saying that they had received reports that there were 2 people that had been shot at this residence. When officers got there, they found Jalen Collins suffering a non-fatal gunshot wound. And then they found 26-year-old Olivia Carrillo, had been fatally shot. At that point, the Metro Homicide Unit was called in and the investigation began with them as a homicide investigation. Some of those details that we can talk about right now, as the case is still very active, is that there were multiple shots fired, multiple shooters, more than one at least. And I think it's important for people to know there was no party or gathering at Olivia's house. She was there with her, at the time, 2-year-old son.
Wow.
And her roommate. And so this wasn't, we see this unfortunately often. There's large parties and then lots of shots fired occur. That's not the case with this. Again, Olivia's 2-year-old son was in the home as well. He was not injured. However, the trauma that child went through is unbelievable. Being in that home at the time. As we talked about on last week, Metro Homicide initially came out and handled the investigation. And then January 1st of 2022, case file and investigation was turned over to the South Bend Police Department Violent Crimes Unit. I know the detective that has picked up this case has been actively working on it since the day he got it, and had reached out and said, hey, this is, I think, a great case for Crime Stoppers to feature because I think there's people that know something.
There always is, right? We talk about that. And since with my time at the police department, it's talked about a lot. You guys respond after the fact, but before it happens, somebody knows it's going to happen. Somebody knows immediately after. There's always somebody that knows something. It's just who's going to be willing to stand up and say something. And that's why we keep, I don't know how many times we can say it, Michiana Crime Stoppers is that avenue to do this without anybody having any idea who you are. So Olivia found inside the home as well as Jalen, correct?
Yes, they were.
And of course that baby. I do want to pause for a minute because we do have some video that I do want to play where you can actually hear this gunfire. So have a listen. So as you can hear, multiple shots. And as you said, you guys believe there were multiple shooters in this case.
And this is the fact that we're playing a video that has the audio where you can hear that means, you know, somebody in that neighborhood may have heard those shots. They may have looked out their window, saw a car leaving, saw a person leaving. They could hold even the smallest piece of information, the smallest detail, may be something that is quite crucial to the investigation. And so while you may be thinking, well, I don't think I have any information that can help, it's better to tell either the detectives or call it into Crime Stoppers and share that information. Let us put that puzzle together and see if that piece is in fact part of what we're missing.
It's working through that apprehensiveness to call thinking that your information isn't important. And I've been there in times when I thought, do I call 911? Don't I call 911? We've all been there. We feel that like, well, I don't want to feel stupid if this isn't a 911. I don't want to bug them. In cases like this, there is no bugging. Like it doesn't, you know, what's the worst thing that you can do is say, thank you so much. Unfortunately, it doesn't line up, or that didn't have to
Right.
do with this, or we checked it out. Like that's the worst that can happen. They're not going to get in
I can,
trouble.
right. We would much rather have every single little nugget and dig through all those to uncover the truth than to not have those and not be able to find out the facts and the truth. And so I encourage anyone in that area, whether you heard something, you saw something, it's so important to reach out, whether you're reaching out directly to the violent crimes detective or you're calling in tips to Crime Stoppers. It's so important. You can be a little piece to this puzzle, and you can help give a voice to Olivia, and you can help her family get the closure and the peace that they're looking for. As you mentioned, she's a mother, she's a sister, a daughter, a friend. Her little baby's name was Elijah. Her and Elijah's father, I mean, there you can look at her memorial page and just see that the bond that they had was so just so heartwarming to see them raising that child. We talked with Olivia's mom a little bit, and you know, she shared that Olivia had such a big heart and that she was a CNA and she just absolutely loved working with the elderly. And again, we're just talking about a young woman, 26 years old. Her life was taken far too soon and for no reason.
Gosh, it breaks your heart. And especially as you mentioned for her son, like I can't imagine the trauma,
Right.
you know, all of them involved, and that has a rippling effect, right, on all those families and friends that touch those lives. So please, anything, no matter how big or small, Michiana Crime Stoppers, so many ways to do it, whether it's calling, whether it's heading to that, you know, the P3 tips line, you know, everything. There's just so many different ways to do it, especially with a smartphone. Ugh.
Christine, I think it's also, I mean, we've made it incredibly simple. In case you forget the numbers, you know, they're easy to remember, but in case you forget them, even if you just go to our Facebook page, there's literally a button at the top of our Facebook page that you click and it takes you straight to the P3 app to be able to submit those tips. And again, there's no tracking of IP addresses. There's no tying it back to your social media account. It is completely anonymous. And so it is so simple to send a tip into us so that way we can follow up on them.
Yeah, April
And
27th.
every tip gets followed up on, every single one.
Yeah, and 24 hours. You can call anytime.
Yes.
So yeah, April 27th, 2021, we're almost at that year mark. This family needs answers, and you could be the person to do that. Is there anything else about this case that I know there are details that you do have that you can't share due to the investigation. Is there anything else though that we can share besides what we've already said?
I think it's just really important to reiterate that, like we saw in that video, you can hear those shots, you know, for probably a few blocks. And so it doesn't mean that if you don't live in the 600 block of South Illinois, that you may not have information. You know, whether it's you saw cars leaving, like I said, or people, those are things that don't always happen right next door or 2 houses down from where it happened. So even if you're just in that area and there's something that you saw or heard, we have to expand kind of what we're looking at here and encompass an entire area.
Yeah, gosh, what a beautiful life that was taken. We have about a week left, right, of mentioning the shredding event because it's coming up, but it really is so important to what you guys do and to help encourage people to come forward in cases like Olivia's. So tell me a little bit about the shredding event.
It is. I want to say first that, Michiana Crime Stoppers being a nonprofit, we are responsible for raising all of the funds that we pay out in rewards. And when you look at our history since 1983, we paid out over $1.1 million in rewards. That's a lot of money that we have to raise. And so our event, our shredding event, is so important. It's Saturday, April 30th from 8 a.m. to noon at the St. Joseph County Fairgrounds. The line will enter through gate 7. You'll be able to just pull right on through. We will unload all those documents for you, so you don't even have to do that. And then you'll exit on out gate 4. And so keep an eye on our Facebook page. Over the next few days, we're going to be giving some little videos to show you exactly where to come in. So keep an eye out for those. And we're looking for a $10 minimum donation. If you have a whole truck full, we would ask that you be a little more generous with that donation since it is a fundraiser. But again, this is a great way to give back to the community through Crime Stoppers, but also help protect yourself.
Yeah, no, it's such a great event. And you guys do have quite a few people that come out. So definitely get your stuff together, definitely support it. And like you said, definitely, I've been there a couple of times when people roll up with these big trucks, maybe a little bit more than $10 would go a long way for all those. Lieutenant Keelan, oh, good. Sorry.
No, I was just gonna agreeing completely.
You're like, because we do all the heavy lifting and all that shredding.
Generosity is a very wonderful thing at an event like this.
Yeah. Well, Lieutenant Kayla Miller, thank you so much. Really appreciate you bringing this story forward because, as I mentioned, we felt it in the community, and hopefully this will at least bring some hope to Olivia's family because we haven't forgotten, you guys haven't forgotten, and of course, you're doing everything you can to help.
Yes, thank you so much for letting us talk about Olivia. And again, just community, we have to stick together. We have to work together if we want to see our community fight this violence and make it a better and safer place for everyone who lives here, those that are visiting. It's going to take all of us.